Hello everyone. Today, we as a group are going to discuss about analyzing workplace documentation and legal strategies behind it. These are the team members: Hed Patel, Vineet, Anish, and Harvinder. Okay, so what are we going? What is our agenda? First is case study creation. We will discuss about a case study. Next is documentation strategy. How did the documentation strategy is going to be, and what are the legal analysis behind the case? Looking at the introduction, let's talk about what are the workplace discrimination that takes place in Canada. So, first of all, we can see that disability is something that is very common and something that we disability discrimination that we completely see in Canada. Next is racial discrimination uh, and ethnic origins. It's also very well known, and 32%, 32.9% percentage of people are going through this discrimination. Next is gender discrimination, age discrimination, sexual orientation, and gender identity discrimination. And last is harassment in general. So we can see that discrimination takes place in various fields and in various types. So now let's talk about our own case. Here is we are doing a case study about Alpha Financial Services, which is a company that takes pride in its dedication to diversity and inclusivity. However, behind the scenes, the company is grappling with issues that contradicts its professed principles. Sarah and James, two employees at the organization, have been facing discrimination and harassment, sparking a crisis within a country. Sarah has repeatedly been passed over for promotions in favor of her male counterparts, James, and staff member who has been with Alpha Financial Services for 3 years has endured continuous racial harassment from his supervisor, Robert. Now let's talk about the incident, what has happened. At the company Alpha Financial Services, Sarah had started her journey with optimism and she had also consistently got a good performance evaluation. She was also making good contributions to the company's projects. However, after some time, she began to notice a negative trend which caused her concerns. She was well qualified for the positions and she did hard work too, but had been overlooked again and again for developer positions in 3 occasions. Each time the promotion went to a colleague who had either experience or low experience or lower performance ratings. That last straw came when John, a co-worker with experience lower and low performance, was chosen for a position that Sarah had been eyeing for a long time, which raised her concerns with her manager. Mark, he provided explanations. Mark emphasized that John was a fit for the role and Sarah's soft skills, were rather not as proficient as Mark. The dismissal of her grievances left Sarah feeling marginalized and disheartened. Next, second incident is about James. James had a time at Financial Services due to harassment from his supervisor Robert. The harassment included jokes about James' disabilities and exclusion from team activities. Things take a turn for the worse during a team meeting when Robert made a comment about James' race in front of their colleagues. When James tried to address the issue, Robert brushed it off as a joke, leaving James feeling embarrassed and marginalized. This public incident was one of racially insensitive remarks made by Robert over time. Now, let's talk about the escalation. What are the steps the both of the parties taken in order to safeguard themselves against the discriminations? Sarah and James both took steps to address the discrimination and harassment they were facing. Sarah started keeping records of times when her efforts were ignored and when she felt left out of decision making. She also noticed that her male co-workers had chances for career growth, which reinforced her belief in gender bias. With this information, Sarah filed a complaint with HR accusing gender discrimination. However, the HR investigation found no proof of bias, disregarding Sarah's evidence and worries. On the other hand, James chose to report the harassment to HR following a public incident during a team meeting. He provided description of Robert's insensitive jokes, remarks, and exclusionary actions. They suggested diversity training for everyone on the team, but did not impose any penalties on Robert. James believed that the company's reaction was insufficient, feeling this his worries were being disregarded. Now they went to choose legal consideration. The legal implications for Alpha Financial Services could be severe. The case of Sarah's gender discrimination and James' racial discriminations are well provided for by the Title VII of the Civil Rights Act that does not allow discrimination on the ground of race, color, religion, gender, or national origin. In Sarah's case, the consistent failure to promote her and the lack of recognition, exclusion from decision-making process could be an indication of gender discrimination. In addition, actual damages may be awarded in a successful lawsuit, and these may be intended to deter future actions. The following is an equally important set of challenges that James case presents to Alpha Financial Services. The racial harassment he has suffered in the workplace is reported to be a constant, and a remark about his race could be considered as putting him in a hostile environment. The fact that HR departments have not acted on the complaints that James made could be considered as condoning or continuing the harassment. Should James decide to go for legal option, he can claim for compensation for distress and punitive damages as well. Furthermore, this can lead to the investigation of the company's action and decisions concerning diversity and equality. In, con- uh, in conclusion, I will say about this case is that discrimination and racial harassment at Alpha Financial Services help to understand the interconnection between them, likely legal repercussions of employees' conflict of discrimination and harassment at the workplace. It is important to manage issues well since the consequences of not doing so are severe as we have discussed. Now let's talk about the documentation strategy. Next part will be taken by Heath.
Thank you, Vinit. So, as we discussed the case study by Vinit, there are some documentation strategy that has to be involved for the legal consideration because documenting incident is very crucial for the employee when organization review the information when complaint get registered. So here is the below types of incidents should be documented in the Alpha Financial Service by their employer as well and employee. But from the discrimination side, for the in the Sarah's case, discrimination is a record for the promotion, such as when Sarah was overlooked promotion despite her qualification and the work performance critical, such as specific days promotion, who got the promotion, and what the qualities or qualification got overlooked compared with the Sarah and proposed to the John. Bias in the second part of discrimination, it would be the bias performance measurement, which means unfair language in the proper performational evaluation data, which downgrade the Sarah's performance or purposely highlight the deficiency in the Sarah's side. Gender discrimination feedback. It may be the case scenario where the Sarah being overlooked because of her gender. Exclusion from decision making, such as where the Sarah got invited into the team meeting, but excluded from the process where her male colleague had invited and given more preference than to Sarah for the John. Second one is harassment. In the John case, in the James case, the racism should be recorded, been maintained for the expertise that James had been annually racial harassment from his manager Robert. So he should take a note of all dates, exact word has been used, the comment has been passed, incident where that took place, and such as the discussion were held where James feel that it was a racial harassment from his son, from his the manager. Intensive behavior, specify case and write the situation where the Robert intentionally told a racial offended jokes during the team meeting or any public gathering. Purposely exclusion, group activity, team meeting, team discussion where the James is left out. In particular, it seems to be racial motivation and where he's only the not invited for the meeting. Humiliation, specific account for any words that Robert said or action that would take place into the public place in the presence of the James with the target of making that him feel embarrassed and ashamed of being of some religion or some origin. Third one is retaliation. So repercussion after the complaint, what happened in both the case. So record all the form mistreatment method of the Sarah or James by their employer, where they have reported their complaint to the HR department, but such as neglected inadequate tasks that they need to accomplish or poor evaluation on their performance, effect in the job responsibility. What would be the repercussion after they file a complaint? Did job content change? They said that due to some reason they have the change of their duty content dramatically, or sudden change of their department, or their bosses workload has been increased or not. Team assignment can be consideration for the retaliation as well. Third one is HR response or investigation after complaint. Filing the complaint. So when and how Sarah and James file a complaint to the HR. So the specific nature of the complaint details should be recorded. Second one is HR investigation with the final decision. So when they require recording, analyzing step-by-step procedure for the investigation, who investigated the HR person, how much time it was get consumed, which pieces of the evidence should be considered or given importance or it get ignored as well. Document the finding for that probe. Any put down communication that took place, why some determination were made or neglected. Now, we will focus the application of 5 Ws, which is who, what, when, where, and witness. Next slide, please. Next slide. So, in this case, applying the 5 Ws would be involve the discrimination and harassment at Alpha Financial Service, which can help the documenting incident by clear and organized manner, such as who was involved. So, Sarah, the developer of the employee for 5 years. Mark, Sarah's manager, who provided the dismissive response to the Sarah. James, employee from past 3 years. Robert, James supervisor who made a repeatedly racial remark, and the HR, a person who investigated Sarah and James' complaint and investigated but failed to take appropriate action. Now let's go into what. Sarah did not get promotion yet having more experience, knowledge than her peers. Her manager were more concerned about the upgrading skills than her technical expertise. Whereas, on the other hand, James got racial harassed by his supervisor, and HR downplayed when the complaint got filed and wasn't acting against the Robert even after numerous complaints. When it happened, Sarah got compromised for promotion several times compared to her less qualified male colleague John. James faced harassment for continuously period during his 3 years of service in the meeting, at the team meeting, public place. That the worst incident during the team meeting when the Robert passed a racist comment. Where Sarah's incident occurred during the performance review meeting, team meeting, and promotional decision at job. And the James case involved racial harassment in the workplace that was especially the during team meetings and related work disclosure. Witnesses. So here who were supportive or not supportive in Sarah's and James' case, such as colleagues can serve as a witness of her performance and also involved during the time of the decision on promotion, which can support by performance evaluation. For the James team member who attended the meeting in which Robert spoke a racist word, public gathering where the communication that contain racial sensitive remarks can be presented as visible, so public can be a witness as well. Now, the strategies to avoid hearsay and enhance administrative code will be reviewed by the Anis. Thank you.
Thank you, Hate. So, what are the strategies to avoid hearsay and enhance admissibility in court? The first one is legal consultation. So, Sarah and James should seek legal advice as soon as possible with their lawyers. Their attorney will be able to advise them on the gathering of proper admissible evidence, avoiding hearsay, and avoiding hearsay and concentrating on the proof in connection to their allegation. Pre-litigation strategies may also be considered by the lawyers. That includes arbitration process or mediation process without going on a civil litigation. The second one is avoiding hearsay. Concentration should be made on the first-hand information and not the hearsay, which is generally not admissible in court. Deposition of the key person, such as the supervisor, HR, should be done through questioning them under oath prior to the trial. The third one is consistency in testimony. Sarah and James need to practice the testimony with their lawyers in order to speak out with the same stories, or else the discrepancy may completely invalidate them. They should stick to the state of facts and avoid guesswork to ensure that the integrity of their testimonies in order for the court to dismiss such like statements are mere hearsay. The next topic is use of technology, that is use of email, text, and messages to preserve evidence. The first one is email. Sarah and James should be uh, preserving and keeping all the email correspondence with the supervisor and HR, which were used for harassment and discrimination. The email should also include discussion by Sarah regarding her inquiries on promotion and the responses that the HR gave her and the responses that downplay her qualification. John cancelled meeting invites, writing contents for decision reflects are few of the emails that were done to Sarah. These records are very basic in showing company acknowledgement or lack thereof, where they did not get any timely or satisfactory response to Sarah. The second one is text messages. Messages should be saved if these issues were discussed via text. This does not only include casual comments like discriminatory or harassing messages from colleagues or supervisor, but also in informal settings where these harassment and discrimination were done. The third one is backing up the evidence. Sarah and James should back up all the emails and text, put it in a backup folder. This will help save files in case those emails and messages get lost. In case of sensitive communication, the best advice is to use personal emails so that company can have access and delete the evidences. Now, the next topic of legal analysis will be covered by Harvinder.
Yeah, thank you, Anish. So we will discuss now the legal analysis. So the very first topic we will cover is how the evidence supports the employer's claim. So in from the terms point of Sarah's evidence, as Sarah has recorded all the documentation that the time she has good performance over the company, and the company appreciated her for the good performance. So she has a record of that. She has also record of the promotion denials by the company by the time she was not promoted, and other male colleagues were chosen over him as they were less educated or they were less qualified as well. And Sarah has also documented her complaints to HR about discrimination, but in turn to that, the HR didn't say anything about that, and they just said that they are treated fairly by the organization. So all this evidence are enough to support that she has been like discriminated. And from the terms point of James has also proper evidence of the harassment, where he recorded the incident of racial comments, jokes, and being excluded from the activities. So he also recorded the dates, times, and what was said at what time. So he has all the proper documentation, and he also proper documentation of the HR complaints as well. So let's next is impact of the hearsay rule and its exemption. So before moving to its exemption, so let's discuss what is hearsay rule. So the hearsay rule states that one cannot use the statements that are made outside of the court or outside the trial, and those statements are being used to prove something in the court. For example, if James talks something about Robert's comment, and this might be hearsay. How? Because there are no witness or there is no evidence to prove or to back up the statement. So this is the hearsay rule. So what are the exemptions related to it? So the exemptions related to it are the performance reviews and complaints to HR are official document. So these are considered as business records. So these are exceptions to the hearsay rule. So we can't say that the hearsay rule apply to these records. Next is if Robert or other made statements that tend to show that company is liable or that there is some pattern of discrimination, such statements will be admissible as well, because these statements are against the interest of the speaker. So what speaker is saying, these statements are against him. Next could be when other people witness or hear something about James or Sarah's discrimination, that is admissible in the courts, because this has proper witness or this has proper proof that they can prove in the court that yes, the company or the organization has done discrimination to the Sarah, and also has some racial harassment to the James. So these are proper documentation. So let's discuss next what are the risks and benefits of suggested documentation. So the benefits of good documentation is that if you have good documentation, you can prove in the code that yeah, that I have did this documentation, and it will help in strengthening our case and by having a factual evidence for the same. Another benefit could be that it could be very useful in the court. It can give Sarah and James a better chance in negotiation or legal actions because their evidence is well organized and clear. So these were some benefits of the good documentation. In terms of poor documentation, when the documentation is poor, so it could not be admissible in court. Their case can be severely compromised because the court comes with a lot of questions on key detail. How will those answers will be? How will those questions will be answered if the documentation is not proper? Another risk could be if the record or documentation is incomplete, it can hurt the credibility of the employees. For example, in this case, if the James and Sarah did not have proper documentation, it can hurt their credibility, which means that they can their claim that they have made in the court could be proved unrealistic or it is hard to believe. So the next is some legal implication and potential cases within the court. So the legal implications were Title 7 violation, as Vineet already discussed in the overview. That what Title 7 is, it is all about that Title 7 of the civil right allows that the companies cannot discriminate basis on the gender. So if Sarah's claim proves to be true, if she made her claims to be true, then the it will prove that the company has violated this Title 7 violation. Next is hostile work environment. In case of James, if James got successful in proving his claim that the company has did harassment to him, then it will also prove that the company has hostile work environment, which means that they are not working properly in the organization. Then could be diversity training and policy changes. If the both the employees agrees or successful in proving their claims, then the company may be forced to change its training and policy changes. So the next is what are the potential courtroom scenarios related to Sarah's claim. So in Sarah's case, the company can defend that their promotion decision are fair. They have not selected on the basis of unfairly. Whatever the candidates they selected, they were good fit to the company and the company needs them. So it could be the company's defense related to Sarah's claims. And what could be the outcome possibilities? The outcome possibilities will be like it could be in the Sarah's case or it could be in the company's. If Sarah's prove that company has discriminated against her based on gender, then the company has to pay for the loss that Sarah has incurred. It could be terms of money or it could be terms in of emotional as well. Same goes in the James case. So the in James' case, company can defend that the comments that they have made were not meant to be harmful. They were just kidding, or that were just jokes. So they did not mean to harass any employee. So they could say that, and the outcome responsibility possibility could be the same if the court. Or if the court decide that the environment was hostile and the company did not respond well to the James, then the company has to pay for the legal money or legal obligation that James has followed. So the next was so these are the references that we have used for. It could be from just for the uh, hearsay evidence. So that's all from our side. Thank you very much.